a little happy ending, something that just might like.
So what we like here is she's been struggling with every time Dan puts weight in the stirrup and steps up and steps back down, she swings her hips out. Now, it's not to say that he wouldn't be able to just get on her, but what she's showing is that she's not fully committed to being there, and what that could turn into is her losing confidence and bolting under saddle. So that's why we're taking the time right now to just really reiterate, stand and wait, and get her here. So we're going to rock her weight, make sure she's braced, that she's balanced, that she's prepared to accept the weight on her back. And Dan's just going to keep pushing on that saddle horn and pulling on her to make sure you see that she's got a nice wide stance in the front. She's pretty well balanced there to take the weight of her rider. And mentally, she's preparing. So then Dan's going to put a foot in the stirrup, step up, step down, and then you'll see her hindquarters swing out. So mentally, she wasn't fully planted there. Her front end is, but her hind end is still wanting to wash out. And so the concern there is when she goes home that her owners are going to go to get on, and you know, she's already thinking about swinging that hip before they swing on. That can turn into a wreck really fast. And a horse that's thinking about moving their feet before you get on isn't a safe horse to get on because of the risk of a runaway or anything like that. So you see Dan's really putting a lot of time into being pretty particular about her behavior right now. And we're not punishing her. It's not punitive. She's not in trouble. We're just going to keep asking the question until she tries something different. So here she's like, well, what if I get closer to the mounting block? I'm like, all right, that's still not the right answer, but if you can get to the place you're supposed to be at, that's okay. You know, we're not gonna look for excuses to punish her. We're trying to support her into finding the right answer. And so that's why we're offering her so many different cues as to what we need from her, which is, hey, plant your feet. Can you be right where I need you? And can you do it where you're parallel and not pushed up against the fence for support? Can you just be with me? Because another thing that'll happen is if she loses her balance with her face that close to the fence, the only logical thing that's going to happen when she needs to move her feet is her hips are going to swing out. And so we're trying to help her find that right answer. And the only way she can do that is by us asking different questions and letting her work it out through some trial and error. So that's what's happening here, is she's going through the trial and error process of trying different things. And then if she tries it and we get that same result of her hips swinging out, she's going to get asked again. So she's offering a different answer. You know, we're going to rock her feet. So now she's thinking, okay, well, when you rock my feet, you just want me to move them. Nope, that wasn't the right answer. Let's try again. And the idea is this is that passive persistence, right? We're not going to nag her to death. We're just going to keep offering her options and see if we can make it a little more clear on the next one. She's looking for the right answer. You know, and we're trying to make things challenging, but not impossible, right? We want her confidence up, right? So we lost her hindquarters again. So same thing. It's not a battle. It's not a fight. We're not going to get mad at her. She's not doing anything wrong. She's trying to solve a puzzle that she doesn't understand yet. And so right now she thinks the answer lies in her hindquarters. And at this point, the answer doesn't lie in her hindquarters. And until she figures that out, we're going to keep going around. And this is not the first time she's done this exercise, this lining up the mounting block. She's been doing it pretty much since the day she got here, that a girl. And so we're trying to help her build confidence in this process. This is a new environment too. She hasn't done a lot of riding in the arena versus the round pen. So it's just a new spot, a new thing. And it's just teaching her that this is the same no matter what. No matter what pen you're in, this is going to be the expectation. There, she lost her confidence, needed to move her feet more than desired, so we're just going to reset her. And I know to some people this is going to feel like we're being nitpicky and critical, and like this isn't that big of a deal. But the reality is, at the end of it, anytime a horse moves forward without you asking, they are running away with you. They can run away with you at the walk. If you haven't asked them to move their feet and they are moving them in spite of you, or if you're asking them not to move and they choose to move, that is still a runaway. Just because it happens at a walk doesn't mean that they're not out of control to some degree. And what we want here for everyone's safety, including our horses, is for her to ask the question before she moves her feet. We want her connected mentally to Dan so that she knows her job is to do just that. He stands up, she stands there. He steps up, she stands there. And there he tried to save her, kind of stop her before she got too far. But she's getting the hang of it. And so it's just going to take repetition for her to understand that standing still was the right answer. And this is where we get horses that are much safer to mount. And we're not doing that Pony Express mount over time. And this may not be important to you. I'll be perfectly honest. Some people don't care about this at all. We do. Because when you're dealing with green riders and green horses, or backcountry riding, or anything where things can get a little sideways, I want to know when I get on my horse that they are going to stand like a rock until I ask them to do otherwise. Because that's ultimately what's going to keep both of us safe. And a lot of times, I think it's important to keep in mind, things get worse before they get better. When they're problem solving like this, a lot of horses go through the phase where things get worse before they get better. There's a nice lick and chew. She's trying to figure things out. And then she's going to get a big reward for stopping in the right place. You know, we're not going to fix this in a day, but we are going to make an improvement. So we took a little break, coming back at it. She was able to end on a good note with the last session. And so here we're just picking up where we left off. Much better positioning from her. But she has created a habit of swinging her hips out. So now we have to balance this responsiveness that we want. Because when we pick up her nose, we want her to swing her hips out. That's generally what we're going to be asking for when we tip her nose like that. So we don't want to take that away as a cue, but we also need her to understand that sometimes you just need to stand here. And that swinging her hips is not always the correct answer. So we're going to ask her to take another step forward and wait. Now she's in a good spot. We'll find some itchy spots, hang on her a little bit. There we go. Help her feel really good about being in the right spot. Let's see where she's at with stepping up. Good. Thought about leaving, but instead she repositioned. That was really nice. It was a good change from what we were getting on the last session, where she's immediately swinging out. There, she was a little physically unprepared, so she's backing. You saw her head go up. So we'll just reset her, ask her to try again. Here, Dan's going to go back to rocking her a little bit, help prepare her. There, she's in a nice spot. So we're going to rock her a little bit. I think it's important to note too that Dan doesn't have her head pulled around. This is really common with a lot of people getting on, it's called cheeking them sometimes, where they really bring the horse's head around. And one of the reasons we don't do that is it causes the horse to be very off balance, and it's much harder for them to be stable while you're getting on them. And so you'll see Dan make a point to help her keep her head and neck straight when he's getting on, and a loose rein, so that she's able to use her head and neck for balance the way it's intended. And she's chewing a little bit. I think what's important to note too is she's not frantic, she's not flailing, she's not stressed. This isn't a big frustrating thing for her. She's not overwhelmed. You see that little bit of a tail flick when she's not sure. We also have bugs starting to come out. That was probably more bugs than anything. Because we are starting to get some flies and mosquitoes coming out with the warmer weather. So you can chalk some of that tail swishing up to that. You see there, her head didn't come up, and she's able to keep her feet still. Much more confident. And there, she took a step back, and that's okay. We're going to let her process. So the last time we worked on this, her pattern was to swing her hips out. Now it's to take a step back. Most of this is just her understanding her balance, and staying still can be tricky for them when they're learning to balance our weight on one side of their body. A lot of horses, once we start being able to get just straight on them, you don't see this behavior nearly as much, because we get centered on them too, and that helps. But it is important because things don't always go well. And I want to know that if I lose my balance or I trip or something silly happens and I don't make it all the way onto my horse, that she can be prepared for that and be braced if I'm a little bit clumsy or a little bit slow. We've had clients in the past with injuries and weaknesses in specific limbs. And so we need horses to know that no matter what, that we need them to wait for us and to be prepared to let us get on in order to keep them safe and keep us safe. If we're out riding in the backcountry and I get hurt, I want to know that my horse will stand still long enough for me to get back on, even if it's not pretty and even if it's not smooth. It's really important for everyone's safety that the horses can tolerate this kind of stuff. Here she's balanced really nicely. And she didn't have to move her feet. So we'll probably take a pause here, help her understand that that was in fact the answer we were looking for, and then give her a little mental break, come back at it and try again. We have a lot more success with 3 or 4 10-minute sessions broken up by breaks in the middle than we would by just hammering on her about it for an hour. Atta girl. This is a third round after a short break. You see here she was able to just wait. No interest in moving her feet. And because she's able to do that, Dan's feeling confident enough to swing on. And what's important here is because she's learned to keep her feet planted, he's able to just swing on, give her some nice itches, so she feels no need to move her feet the second he gets on. Instead, she's looking for that connection. And this is what we want from all of our horses. You know, she's got some flies bugging her down around her udders, so you'll see her kind of swish her tail and stomp a little bit, and we'll get some swat on her when we're done. But it makes a big difference to take the time. You know, it would have been nice to just hop on her and go, but the reality is this was less than 20 minutes to get her to where she's this comfortable standing still and waiting for her rider. I think it's also important to note this is her first time in a Hackamore. She's been ridden in a halter up to this point, and the bit a couple of times. So we're just trying another bitless option to see what she's comfortable in. Her owners were open to trying different things for her to see what she's most comfortable in, which we love. So we'll try a bit, we'll try the Hackamore, and just see what she likes. Some horses love the Hackamore, and if they never have to wear a bit again, they are stoked. Others honestly will do better in the right bit that's fitted for them. We have another horse out on the obstacle course. She got a little bit distracted, but nothing crazy. And we'll just start with a nice easy walk. Important to see, like, Dan's got a little bit of feel, but he's not pulling on her. There's no contact, but there is a little bit of feel. There, she got a little stuck. So we're just going to work initially on some turns. So lots of figure eights, helping her understand how to bend and be supple to that feel of that Hackamore, because it is a new tool for her. What we don't want to do is get her moving fast and then grab at her face without her being prepared. So these easy walks and lots of bends helps her stay really connected to Dan and follow the feel of that tool. These Hackamores are designed as a signal tool, not a leverage tool. So the horse learns to respond based on the weight shifting in that Hackamore noseband. So as it gets lifted off of her face or the weight of the rein changes, there she tried to duck out the opposite direction, so Dan just blocked her. So as the weight of the Hackamore shifts and rotates, that's what she's actually going to respond to. The bumping only comes in if she misses the cue of the weight. I hope that makes sense. So what we want her to do is feel the shifting weight of the Hackamore, and if she doesn't respond to that, then she'll feel a little bit of pressure from the bump. This is another tool that does not work with steady pressure. You can easily teach any horse to run through a Hackamore by hanging on them. So you'll see she's a pretty forward little mare. And so Dan's doing a great job of just going with her and then bumping to bring her back into his hands a little bit, lifting and taking the weight out of that heel knot to help her check in with him before asking her to walk again. The other thing is these reins. It's a mane hair Makati. You can also do alpaca, or I think we have a pair made out of yak even, or mohair works, even yacht braid rope. The important thing is that the Makati is intended to have some weight, and the reason for that is the weight in the rein is part of the signal. And so you'll see when Dan bumps, the heel knot comes back up towards her jaw a little bit, and it'll kind of bump her there. And what we want her to do is find the middle of that Hackamore. You see he was able to slow her feet down. Here he's going to get her straight again. And it's just a lot of allowing her to make the mistakes and figure out where she's going, and then supporting her back the direction we need. This is definitely more of a hand-holding tool, not a bullying tool. You will see people get real heavy-handed in these. Generally that happens because they don't have the refinement, or the horse isn't prepared enough to give to pressure before going into it. You'll also see Dan uses his seat and legs quite a bit to help support her. So he'll add a little bit of leg to support the rein cue. And here she's starting to relax and move a lot softer in his hands. And if she gets lost and stops, we're going to let her. She's going to get a second to stop, and then we'll ask her to go again. Here, Dan's asking for her shoulders to move over. There, she was able to do a nice little lateral movement. It's not pretty, it's not refined, but it was an appropriate response to the information that he asked and to the cue that she was given. So you'll see he's just going to check in with her quite a bit to help her understand this tool better. Then we'll ask for a turn here. You'll see he just bumps with that inside rein. And it's so important to remember that with this tool in particular, you do not want steady pressure. We want a lift and a bump if they're leaning. The minute you start feeling that horse get heavy, it needs to turn into a bump. Here she got scared. That's okay. Not sure what got her, but she's able to come back. And then you saw the importance of that being able to bring her nose around, and why we spent so much time when he first got on her going, hey, let me have your nose, because that's why he was able to bend her to a stop there when she got scared. And it didn't have to become a big deal. See here, he's just working on helping her come back into his hands. Her head's a little bit high, and she's losing a little confidence, so he's just going to bring her nose over and bring her back. You'll notice when she's getting worried, his hands get really wide. That's to help give her some more room to see what's happening. When his hands get wide, she gets a more direct signal of bring your head this way. It turns the hackamore out wider. As horses get more refined in the hackamore, your hands will come closer together, like that turn. The fence really supported, so he was able to be nice and light. You'll see his hands staying real close to the middle of the saddle. That would be the goal for a finished hackamore horse. When she's learning, you'll see his hands get wide when she's not sure what to do. And so this is how he's going to help teach her to respond to this tool more effectively. So see here, she's getting a little bit more forward, a little unconfident. And so Dan's just going to get a little bit shorter in order to be more effective. And so what he's asking here is for her nose to come down there and help her find the middle of that hackamore. And so it's important at these early stages that we give her a lot of opportunities to find the right answer without being super heavy-handed with her. The lighter we can start her, the easier it will be for her to maintain this tool and understand it. There, she's able to tip her nose and bring her head down. Teaching her these light responses when she's calm is what keeps us safe in an emergency, because she already has a sense of what's expected and she knows where the right answer is. And when her head gets high, you'll see Dan's hands get high. That's helping her find the middle of that hackamore, and then he'll drop them with her. There's a lot about balancing weight. Again, it's a signal tool, not a leverage tool, so it really changes how you apply your aids. And there's a lot of importance that cannot be overstated on having soft hands with good timing, especially when teaching a horse to go in this tool. It is very easy to teach a horse to run through this tool if you're not careful. And if you are a timid rider who can be heavy-handed and tend to brace with your hands, this is not a tool to start with. Make sure you're learning from someone competent on a horse that's very well educated in order to get a feel for how the hackamore works, because it's so easy to teach one to run through if you're not careful. And so this is why we're putting so much time in now of letting her play with it, speeding up her walk and slowing her back down. When her nose gets high, you'll see Dan start asking her just to bring it back down. Soften her neck, soften her head. She's going to slow her feet. Good. Get a little bit forward. And there her neck and head came down. There she got a little stuck. So there her nose is coming up again. She's not quite sure what to do with herself. So she's just going to keep supporting her with go forward, bring your head down. Good. You'll see her confidence come up as we go, and there's her first stop and back up. So he's going to, the important thing you'll see is he's bumping, almost jiggling the reins rather than pulling her backwards. That's a key factor in manipulating this tool effectively, is there is no constant steady pressure. There is only feel followed by rhythmic pressure. So feel and then rhythmic pressure to help her follow each foot. That was really nice and soft. And you'll see she's not threatened by it. She's not intimidated by it. She's not hurt. This is a very gentle tool when used effectively, and like any other gentle tool, it can be used in a way that can be abusive or scary if used harshly. We've seen horses with their chins torn up from the abrasions and poor fitting tack and that sort of thing. So our goal is for our horses to be happy and comfortable and responsive. And comfortable horses are more responsive. So the more comfortable we can keep her, the easier it is for her to listen to our cues and respond to them appropriately. You'll see where Dan's letting her travel out, letting her stretch her neck. We're not going to prevent any of those things. I will also say, if you're not someone who can handle a very forward horse, I would not jump into a Hackamore right away, because if you have a tendency to want to hold them back, you're really going to struggle in this tool. They need to be allowed to move their feet to understand that signal until they have a good feel for it. You'll see here she's walking out really nicely and purposefully. She's got a good swing in her body. You'll see here Dan asking for that turn. She kind of blew through it, so he's going to bump until she makes the rest of the turn. We'll try it again. Here he's going to bump that shoulder over. Here she got stuck. Oops, so did I. There we go. So he's still asking for those shoulders. She's a little bit stuck. She's still not sure. There. It wasn't pretty, but she's starting to understand. So here she's getting stuck. And so we have to keep that forward. This is her getting a little bit emotional. And so we have to get that forward back before we get that lateral movement. And that's okay. That emotion's coming from her lack of understanding. So that's where I'm saying it's important that if you're not comfortable working through something like that without shutting her down, this is probably not the tool for you. This is something that you need to really have the confidence to allow the horse to give you feedback until they understand what they're doing. Just asking her to change her bend. It's a little bit hard for her. She's a little bit more emotional going from her right to her left. Not uncommon. Most horses have a dominant side that they're more confident on. You see, it's much easier for her to make this turn than it is on the other side. It's getting a little bit softer. And a little bit of side pass. And really, we're just introducing some body control in this new tool. Can we move each of her parts softly and willingly without her getting emotional? There we go. See, it's much harder for her to go from her right to her left than it is to go from her left to her right. And that's okay. See here, she's feeling a little bunched up. I'm just going to get her going forward first and then try again. Again, she's feeling a little bunched up. So get her going forward again. Go back to something she feels comfortable with. And then we'll ask again. We're not going to drill her on the things she's struggling with. We're going to ask her to try. When she makes an effort, we'll go back to something she's good at to build her confidence up. This mare doesn't have a lot of saddle time. And so we really want to make sure we're always working to build her confidence as we increase her education. We never want her to lose confidence in people. See there, she's a little bit nervous looking at something in the distance and a little bit confused about what's being asked of her. So we just ask the question, have her give an effort. See here, she's getting stuck again, but she made an effort. She may not make it all the way through, and that's totally fine. She's doing the best she can with what she knows right now. There will come a day that this will be really easy for her. But this is the first time she's really been asked a lot of these questions, and the first time she's ever been in a Hackamore. So we give her a lot of grace at this stage while she's learning. Here, Dan's practicing what we call our emergency slowdown, emergency stop, making sure she understands that when we ask for her nose that way, we want her to shut down that power and be prepared to stop. This is something we use very judiciously. We're not going to do it a lot, but we want to know it's in there if we need it. It's very early in her trot career. She's only been trotted a handful of times under saddle. So that's why this is looking so disjointed. So we're just building her confidence, and you'll see Dan's quick to let her stop if she loses her confidence. Walk a couple of steps and then ask her to try again. We don't care that she carries it. We care that she tries. Because this is a weird feeling for her. Good. Then he's going to ask her to stop. Slow her down before she gets scared. Because this is a very different feel than a walk for a horse. And you see like her head coming back. She got a little bit nervous. So we let her slow down, calm back down, and then try again. So we don't need her to, run the Tevis today. What we need her to do is be willing to pick up the trot when she's asked, and then we'll stop her before she gets scared, or let her stop if she is scared. We always want her to know that if she is unconfident, slowing her feet down is a good answer. I never want to reassure my horse that, hey, if you're panicking, you should run. I want my horse to be like, I'm not sure what to do. Let me stop and ask my human. That's what we're trying to build in here, is if she's not sure what to do, she can always stop and ask the question, and then we will just try it again. She is not expected to maintain this all day long. But you see, each time we let her stop and start again, she's able to go a little bit longer with confidence. That may be all we do today. But for her, that's meaningful because she was able to do it in a way that made her feel comfortable and safe and not like she was being chased or attacked or anything. So we want her to feel confident and willing to try these new things that we're presenting to her and know that she's not going to be punished for getting things wrong.